oddly silent in their determination to descend 50 stories, 49, 48, 47, clattering down step after step after step. A collective gasp echoed through the stairwell as the lights went out. Everyone froze. A few seconds later, harsh emergency lighting washed the surreal scene in a yellow glow, and the swell of people began descending again, moving faster, eyes on the steps, tongues silent. Being swept along with the crowd, Carl was unsure but thought he went down 2 or 3 steps at a time without actually touching the ground. Still, the young man held on to his arm. Funny the things one focuses on in a crisis, Carl was to think later. He'd let himself be pulled down the stairs behind a young man he'd never seen, but whose hoodie was on inside out, the seam showing. He'd fixated on that detail, wondering why the kid had been so rushed that he didn't dress properly. He wondered why the kid needed a hood inside the building on a hot day. What he hadn't thought to wonder, not until he was shoved into the back of a waiting sedan with dark-tinted windows near the emergency exit, his hands bound and a rough blindfold jerked around his head, was who the hell the kid worked for. Chapter 1. Kell spotted the bird as soon as its wingtips cleared the edge of the cypress stand at the eastern rim of Bayou Côte Blanche. For a moment, he indulged a hope it might be a hawk in search of fish, or a pelican, or a cormorant, or a fucking giant mutant hummingbird. Anything but an eagle. It's her. Gator raised his spotted head and focused sharp, mismatched eyes on the horizon, barking furiously in his Catahoula hound big dog voice, usually reserved for alligators and swamp rats. Kell had been sitting on the porch of his cabin on Côte Blanche since Nick's phone call from New Orleans more than 2 hours ago, waiting to see who'd arrive first, the man or the bird. Should have known it would be the freakazoid eagle with the deceptively sweet name of Robin. He'd come to think of her as Razorblade Robin. Nick would have to rent a boat in Jeanneret and navigate the serpentine waters of Louisiana's Atchafalaya swamp to get here. Razorblade Robin could just sprout feathers and soar. The midday sun glinted off the glossy reddish-brown wings of the golden eagle as it swooped over the smooth, murky water of the bayou. It landed with a harsh caw at the end of his dock, spurring Gator to rise to his feet and look up at Kell, asking permission to chase. Sorry, buddy, you don't want to mess with that one. She can take you. Hell, she could take both of them. Kell took a final look at the pile of papers he'd been reading, notes about his team's new assignment. Mostly, he'd been studying the photo on top of the stack. The woman, Mori Chastaine, an environmental activist known for her anti-industry position, had been shot from a distance with a telephoto lens that gave the image a grainy feel. The quality of his generator-powered printer didn't help the photo's clarity, but he could tell she was tall, with an athletic build and shoulder-length blonde hair. Dressed in a t-shirt and jeans, she was pretty in an all-American kind of way. Not his image of a terrorist, which made her even more dangerous. Gator sprang off the porch as the eagle strutted down the dock toward them. He approached the bird in a crouch, his growls echoing off the still water. Damn dog never did listen worth a flip. Kell leaned back in his chair to watch the show. With a screech and a blur of feathers, seconds before Gator reached her, the eagle morphed into a petite waifish brunette. Make that a naked waifish brunette with a snarky attitude. She arched an eyebrow as Kell's vicious watchdog turned into a slobbering, tail-wagging fool, jumping up and down so vigorously his black and white spots seemed to blur. You'd think the hound saw birds turned into people every day. If Gator went the crotch-sniffing route, Kell might have to die of pure humiliation. Not like the naked bird woman came as any big surprise. He reached for the t-shirt he'd thrown across the other porch chair and lobbed it to her as she approached, Gator dancing around her legs. Put this on. Robin Ashton, 5'0" of shapeshifter and the tracker for Kell's new Omega Force team, caught the shirt and used it to wipe the sweat off her face. It's like a sauna out here, pretty though if you're into the primordial. She turned to study the bayou, a minor niche in the massive Atchafalaya basin, and Kell made it a point to keep his eyes away from her ass. It wasn't that he wanted to look at it exactly, but he was a guy.